So let's get started with Essay 1. What's it all about? How do you do it? How are you going to get the grade you want? How are you going to be brilliant in it? Before we get to that, though, we do need to look at all three essays that you're going to be required to do because they have a connection and they're leading to a greater point. So, the first one is a narrative about you and some piece of media that's important to you. The next is going to be a report about what other people think about the media that is important to you. And the last one, the sort of like final piece, is an argument that tries to persuade readers that some media is important for everyone at GSU to watch, read, play, interact with, etc. So, what I suggest for you to do is start backwards. So the last essay that you're going to have to write is saying, hey, I think everybody at GSU should watch this TV show, or should watch this episode of this TV show, or should play this video game. You might want to think about what you think that is, and then do your essay 2 about that same piece of media, and maybe even consider doing your narrative about that media too. So, I just wanted to give you a preview because you can write about the same piece of media for all three assignments, or you can choose a different one for each one, but it might help you ultimately to do a little bit less work, so work smarter, not harder, by streamlining all of these. So, that is the first thing I wanted to show you before we look straight at the assignment sheet. If you look at the assignment sheet for Essay 1, everything is outlined here. So let's just read it together. Think about the media that you spend time listening to, watching, or playing. How did you come to love it? Was it a gradual process? Was there one moment? Or maybe there's a story about you and your favorite media that demonstrates your connection to it. How does that story help others understand what kind of fan or person you are today? So these are the questions that we're asking for you to answer in your story. But the main objective is for you to write that story that tells me something about who you are, but it also shows me your connection to that media. And the reason I say media is because I want you to feel free to talk about an artist who does music. I want you to feel free to talk about a video game. I want you to feel free to talk about a book, a TV show, anything that you think is compelling and important. I want you to be able to write about. So, how do you really do that? Let's talk about that. So, you're going to need to talk about the story. So, when you're brainstorming a story to tell about you and some media, it can't be you just telling me what the media is about, because that would be more like a report about it. That would be more like, I don't really need to know all of the things about the piece of media. What I want to know is something about you. So maybe you had an amazing concert experience. Maybe you had a moment where you were having a hard time and you went and listened to this one particular song and it helped you out of that hard time. Maybe you were struggling and then you found an artist that really spoke to you. So you need to tell a story that involves characters, setting, and details. You're not telling me about the media necessarily, though sometimes you will have to explain a little bit. You're really telling me a story. But it's not just any old story like I one time got locked out of my car and it was really crazy. It needs to feature that media that you choose. And it needs to also show some kind of connection that you have between these two things. So, lastly, to kind of help you understand, this is all you need for a successful Essay 1. You need to have a clear articulation or way of understanding the purpose of your story. So, that does not have to be a traditional thesis statement. That just needs to be a place in the story or an overall impression that the story gives that helps readers understand what is the connection between you and the media. What have we learned about you as a result of reading the story? You need to definitely have evidence from your past. You need to have some details that are interesting to the audience, and you need to have effective storytelling. And the thing is, storytelling can be really creative and not conventional. As long as it's making people interested and compelled, you're good. You need to have some kind of organizational structure. And again, it doesn't have to be like 5 paragraphs. It can be something a little bit more experimental. Again, you need to show us that connection. And then you need to have formation. No, that's a typo. I got to fix that. You do need to have proofreading. proofreading in MLA format. And we're going to talk about MLA format before the module is over, so don't worry too much about that. So this is your introduction to Essay 1. Hopefully it gives you an idea. I'm going to be sharing with you one example that I've written for this media narrative, so look out for that, and please email me for any more clarification questions.